Hey, Chaotic Crew, Brian here, and I thought we were going to be diving into Edge of Eternities this week, but instead we got an amazing secret lair that gave us a bunch of Sonic the Hedgehog cards. And I wanted to make a couple decks out of them. All the cards are really cool in the secret lair. You should check it out. But I liked Dr. Eggman. I thought it could be a unique, fun Grixis commander, so wanted to build that. He is a 3/6 flying human scientist for 2 of anything, a blue, a black, and a red. So 5 mana for a 3/6 flyer. At the beginning of your end step, draw a card. Then each opponent faces a villainous choice. That player discards a card, or you may put a construct, robot, or vehicle card from your hand onto the battlefield. So I definitely want to break down this ability for you real quick. Just off the bat, face value, at each of your end step, you're going to draw a card. So this commander has card draw. Love that. Then each opponent faces a villainous choice. So they can choose to either discard a card, even if they have no cards in hand, or they can have us put a construct, robot, or vehicle from our hand onto the battlefield. So because it's having each opponent do it, I think this is actually a decent ability. If it was target opponent, it would actually be pretty bad. But having each opponent do it is nice because you could have 2 cards in hand, and so then at that point they may be like, well, he may not even have any constructs in hand. So I'm gonna give you the choice to do that. They can choose to gamble, right? And usually giving your opponents a choice is not the best idea because they will tend to choose correct, but a lot of times it can be a gamble of, well, do I really need this card in my hand, or do I think they have like a strong construct or vehicle or robot to put on the battlefield? So it's really kind of interesting how that works, how that mind game works. I think Dr. Eggman is actually a lot more in depth as a political commander than you really might think. You can also, tell someone, hey, if you give me this vote, I'll do this thing. So yeah, really cool card, and I want to build a deck around it. Obviously, Grixis Artifacts isn't anything anyone's a stranger to. I decided to put Duretti in here as a Planeswalker just to draw us more cards, or guys filter through our deck, put some artifacts in our graveyard, and get some strong artifacts out of our graveyard. It's pretty much the main reason Duretti's in any deck, right? But very fun there. We have 29 creatures, and I think they're all artifacts, but some fun ones in here from like Transformers or even Final Fantasy. So just gonna dive right in. Auton Soldier, great card. You can't really read the text here, unfortunately, but it is a 6 mana 0/0, but it can enter the battlefield as a copy of any creature in the battlefield, except it is not legendary, is an artifact in addition to its other types, and has Myriad. So very fun there. We have a lot of strong enter the battlefield triggers, so Auton Soldier can kind of trigger those. Or, you can make another Dr. Eggman and start, drawing 2 cards on each end step and having your opponents face 2 villainous choices. The more we can get them to do that, the more likely they are to just discard cards. So we don't really need to copy our commander multiple times, but being able to do that is nice. And when we do that, it makes it Auton Soldier does have some evasion, is going to get in some damage. So that's nice there. Not a construct, unfortunately, or a vehicle or a robot, but a good card nevertheless. Blitzwing Cruel Tormentor is a robot. It's a Transformers card. Beginning for end step, target opponent loses life equal to the life that player lost this turn. So this won't proc if you get to play this on the battlefield with Dr. Eggman's ability, but having a 6/5 for free is great. You don't have to pay 6 mana for it. Otherwise, you could pay 4 mana for it and play it on its backside. It's a 3/5 with Living Metal, only a creature on your turn. At the beginning of combat on your turn, choose Flying or Indestructible at random. Blitzwing gains that ability until end of turn, and then whenever Blitzwing deals combat damage to a player, you convert it. So just a way to get some more damage in, but really just getting you a free 6/5 with Dr. Eggman's ability. Canoptic Spider is really great in this deck. It's a 4/4. No, not a construct, robot, or vehicle, but has flying. Whenever another non-token artifact, creature, or vehicle enters the battlefield under your control, you draw a card. So really good there for these artifact-centric decks that want to be drawing cards as well. Chaos Defiler is great. It is a construct, it's a 5/4 trampler, and when it enters the battlefield or dies, for each opponent you choose a permanent that player controls, destroy one of them chosen at random. So it only destroys one permanent, but being able to do that each time it enters is great, and then having it proc on, Dr. Eggman trigger is also great. Probably one of the best constructs in the game, Cityscape Leveler, 8/8 for 8. When you cast it and whenever it attacks, destroy up to one target non-land permanent, its controller creates a tapped Power Stone token. What makes this fair in the deck is that you're not casting a spell with Dr. Eggman's ability. So you can get this in the battlefield for free, but you don't get to destroy a permanent, right? So that's something to keep in mind there. Coalstoke Gearhulk is really nice. 5 mana for a 5/4 Menace Death Touch. When it enters, you put a creature with mana value 4 or less from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control with the finality counter. So that can be from your graveyard. It can be something your opponents have discarded from their hand that you might find useful, right? So it can be nice there. It gains Menace Death Touch and Haste. So really, you're just getting another into the battlefield trigger. We don't have a ton of creatures in our deck with below 4 mana value. We have a couple. You do have to target something, so you may end up losing one of your artifacts in your graveyard. That's really not a huge deal if that's the case. We have Cyclonus the Saboteur, another Transformers card. A 2/5 flyer. When it does combat damage to a player, it connives. Then if Cyclonus' power is 5 or greater, you convert it. And when you convert it, it's a 5/5 flyer, living metal, only a creature during your turn. When it deals combat damage to a player, convert it. If you do, there's an additional beginning phase after this phase. So you're just getting an extra untap, upkeep, draw step, right? So really good there to give us more card draw, untap all our lands, cast a bunch of more, another big spell or two. Can be really nice there. Added Foreboding Statue, kind of an inside joke with my play group here. Foreboding Statue is a fun card. A little bit slow, but it can add mana. It can be a mana dork, right, early on. 3 mana mana dorks aren't terrible because it will still accelerate us by a turn with Dr. Eggman. It can't tap immediately because it's also a creature. And then if it has 3 or more Omen counters, you transform it into a 5/5. And it's going to give you 1 mana at the beginning of each of your pre-combat main phases. So still going to be ramping you as long as it's on the battlefield, but you can get a solid body out of it as well. Foundry Inspector just helps your artifacts cost less. Goblin Engineer will get you an artifact to your graveyard, and then you can get a cheap one out. Goblin Welder is great to essentially sacrifice your cheap artifacts for expensive artifacts. Right, in your graveyard, just cheat them out stupid free. Really fun there. Golbez Crystal Collector, a new Final Fantasy card, great with artifacts because whenever an artifact you control enters, you surveil 1. Really solid there. And then at the beginning of your end step, if you control 4 or more artifacts, return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. If you control 8 or more artifacts, each opponent loses life equal to that card's power. So we do have some high mana value creatures, maybe not high power per se, but we are putting a lot of things in our graveyard, so being able to get things back at our end step is really nice there. Imskir Iron Eater is a fun card. Just going to draw us a bunch of cards and gain us we lose a bunch of life when it enters. And then you can sacrifice artifacts to deal damage. It's just a cheap beater in the deck, right? Usually we're going to have 4, 5, 6 artifacts on the battlefield, so going to make Imskir pretty cheap there and draw us a few cards while we're at it. Dwyra Weatherlight Captain, another great card draw spell, going to be having us make sure that our hand is full so that our commander is essentially going to make our opponents discard their cards, right? K9 Mark 1 is a fun robot to add in. Gives our legendary creatures Ward 1. It can also make them unblockable, so really nice to have there. Metalwork Colossus, just a 10/10 beater, and can return from your graveyard to your hand, so always nice for Dr. Eggman if we want to get that out for free. Mere Battlesphere is nice. It makes 4 blockers when it comes in, right? And you can also deal some damage with the next turn. So really just a way to get some blockers on the battlefield. Noxious Gearhulk is a solid removal that procs off your commander. Oil Deep Gearhulk is interesting. Lifelink, which is nice to have on a creature, Ward 1. And when it enters, you look at target player's hand, you may choose a card from it. If you do, that player discards that card, then draws a card. So this is great because, it's not lessening your opponent's hand size, so they can still choose to discard or not discard. But you can kind of play with it a little bit and be like, oh, I don't like that you have that card in your hand. Get rid of that. You can replace it, but then, maybe you want to discard that instead of giving me a creature next turn, right? So you can do some shenanigans there. Rug of Smothering, 3 mana for a flying construct, 1/3. Whenever a player casts a spell, they lose 1 life for each spell they've cast this turn. So we're typically, you know, later game going to be casting 1 spell at a time, maybe 2 spells, but our opponents might be casting a lot. So this is really good for, you know, these really fast decks that like to cast a lot of spells, can kind of, you know, keep them reined in a little bit. Scavenged Brawler is a great card, just a bunch of keywords on a creature, and you can exile it later from your graveyard to give a bunch of keywords to another creature you have. So you can, you know, make your commander a 7/10 with all these things, which is always nice. Scrawling Crawler, 3 mana, 3/2. Beginning of your upkeep, each player draws a card, and whenever an opponent draws a card, that player loses 1 life. So punishing our opponents for drawing cards. Even though we do give them some cards, it's not bad because we're going to be having them discard a bunch anyways, right? But obviously, we're going to be punishing the players who want to draw a lot. So I thought that was nice. Slicer's probably one of the best cards to get off of your commander. It gets on the battlefield for free, and then you just hand it to each opponent, and it starts going crazy. So, love that there. Psalm Simulacrum, just ramp piece and a good blocker. Starscream's also fun. You know, getting it off your commander isn't ideal because you know, you're gonna have to wait for someone to attack you before you can even start making someone the monarch, unless someone is already the monarch. You know, but otherwise you want to be playing on the backside and getting it in, make someone the monarch, and then someone that we can attack the next turn as well, and then so that we can become the monarch, and you know, then we can draw 2 cards at the beginning of our end step, and then or you know, draw the monarch card and then do the commander's ability. Suchi Cave Guard is really nice here. 8 mana for an 8/8, but we can cheat it in with our commander. Vigilance Ward 4. Whenever it dies, you add 8 colorless mana. Until end of turn, you don't lose the mana as steps and phases end. Not a massive deal for us. We're not going to be sacrificing a lot. Just an 8/8 Vigilance of Ward 4 is nice there. Thought Monitor, Affinity, and a Construct, so we can cheat it in a couple different ways, right? 2/2 Flyer, and when it enters, we draw 2 cards, so nice there. Ishtola Rule is very much the, you know, hidden boss of this deck, I would say. You know, it blanks a creature at each of our end steps, and then it gives us another additional end step. So being able to proc our commander twice each turn is nice. Really discard, get our opponents out of their hands, right? And then make sure we're going to get multiple of our blink effects as well that we have in the deck. You know, obviously, artifacts entering, Noxious Gearhulk destroying things, Canoptic Spider card draw, Chaos Defiler, Coldstone Gearhulk. You know, we've got a lot of different of these into the battlefield triggers that we could definitely be happy to do again. And then lastly, we have Zenith Chronicler, just a 2 mana 3/1. Whenever a player casts their first multicolored spell each turn, each other player draws a card. Most of the cards in our deck are actually monocolored or colorless, so we're not giving our opponents a ton of card draw, probably just enough to be able to, you know, make them maybe, oh hey, maybe I don't want to discard this card that I just drew, right? You can go ahead and get a free construct or whatever, so nice to have there. And also opponent's going to help us draw cards, right? Because they're going to be mostly playing multicolored spells. We have a few sorceries: Blasphemous Act, Blasphemous Edict, always fun there. We were all running blue, so you could run, you know, Raise the Palisade, Cyclonic Rift, but I decided, you know, this is kind of more of a fun build, so not as much of that kind of stuff. Faithless Looting, Thoughtcast, Trash for Treasure, just to get a, you know, trade an artifact in the field for an artifact in the grave. Vandal Blast is great to get rid of our opponent's artifacts and kind of board wipe them in a little bit. We have Arcane Denial here, Negate, and Sink into Stupor is kind of like counterspell. Sink into Stupor can also, you know, just bounce a permanent, which is nice, and also counts as a land. We also have for removal Reality Shift, Soul Shatter, Chaos Warp, Withering Torment. Those are really nice to just get rid of, you know, these pesky permanents and make sure that, you know, we're controlling the board pretty well. We don't need too many counters in this deck. We're making your opponent discard a lot of cards, and, you know, we're holding our counters up for when our opponents say, hey, I actually want to keep this card in my hand. So we could run a few more counters, but I really, you know, don't think too many is necessary in here. We are running a bunch of these discard cards to draw more cards, so like Big Score, Unexpected Windfall, Demand Answers, even Deadly Dispute. Rakdos Charm's great, graveyard removal, but also can get rid of an artifact or burn our opponents out, right, in niche cases, so nice to have there. As far as like artifacts, we have a lot more, right, because our commander also works with vehicles, so we got a few of those. Just quickly to go over them, the Regalia, whenever it attacks, reveal cards on the top of your library until you reveal a land card. Put it on the battlefield tapped, and the rest of the bottom of your library in a random order. So pretty much just ramping us every turn, which is always nice. Then we have the Falcon, Airship Restored, and when it deals combat damage to player, you may sacrifice it. When you do, return to a creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. So very good there. Nautiloid Ship for graveyard removal, which is also great. And then Demonic Junker, another solid removal piece. When it enters, for each opponent, destroy up to one target, or for each player, you can destroy up to one target creature that player controls. If a creature we control was destroyed this way, we get 2/1 counters on the vehicle. Not going to care about that one as much. This is a good one to sacrifice. We've got Arcane Signet, Dimir Signet, all the Signets, all of the Talismans. We also have Soul Ring, Wayfarer's Bauble, and Relic of Sauron. Relic of Sauron's really nice here, giving us a little bit of extra draw power too as well. And then we do have Panharmonicon, artifact or creature, causing a trigger ability of a permanent we control to trigger. It does an additional time. I say that we have a lot of ETBs. We have a good amount, but not like a deck that's mainly based around it. Like Thoughtmon, like if we count it up here, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Really only have like 9 effects that do that, so not a lot, but we are going to be getting 1 or 2 of them out. If we can double them, that's even better. It just gives us more value. So a lot of times we'll maybe keep our creatures in our hand, wanting our opponents to give this to them for free, and we can cast a spell like Panharmonicon to essentially give us double the value that turn and set us up for future turns. But I only counted 9, but that doesn't include Demonic Junker as well, which is also really strong. And then Golbez is really great because it procs on every artifact, not just itself. So we have some repeatable stuff in there too. And then as far as lands, we've got a pretty generic land base. We are including all the singular artifact lands to help with some of the affinity we have going on, including Midgar, Seething Landscape, and Fabled Passage to help mana fix, and Inventor's Fair can get something out. But Academy Runes is a neat tech. We can instant speed put an artifact from our graveyard on top of our library before our instep, and then instep comes, we draw that card knowing, hey, we want to play this, or maybe our commander ability procs and we instant speed activate this, right? So that's always nice to have there. Let's do a couple games here and just see how the deck runs. We'll keep this hand. We got Xander's Lounge, and then draw. We get Wayfarer's Bauble, so we'll tap 2 for Felwar Stone and tap that for Wayfarer's Bauble. So we're in a pretty strong position here. We'll go ahead and play the Luxury Suite, sure. And I could play Foundry Inspector. That would be the play, because we can just play our commander next turn anyways, other than Wayfarer's Bauble, and then we can Wayfarer's Bauble on a future turn. But it's also adding to our affinity that Thought Monitor gives us, so I actually really like playing the Foundry Inspector here. On turn 3, and then passing. Turn 4, we have a land, but we're going to be tapping out for our commander. In step, we draw a card. Each opponent faces a villainous choice. They may all choose to discard a card, and that may happen most times, where they all choose to discard a card. Okay, that's not a problem. Next turn, we draw. Canoptic Spider is a great draw to have here. We can play it and then make it so that, when another creature enters, we'll draw another card. So let's do that. It only costs 4 as well, so we do leave 1 mana open. We don't really have a ton of 1 mana spells in here, so not a lot, but this is also reducing the cost of Thought Monitor by 4. A 5th from Foundry Inspector, so it only costs 2 mana, right? So if we can get something else on the board, it's totally worth it. So we have, you know, Chronotic Spider. We'll keep this in our hand instead of playing a land, and we'll go next turn, draw, or to end step, draw a card. You know, even if one of our opponents lets us play a free construct, we can get, you know, Scavenged Brawler or Mere Battlesphere. Mere Battlesphere might be stronger to have right now, and a really great card to get out. So really fun there. Different options. Obviously, this deck relies a lot on what choices your opponents make, but they also, you know, opponents don't discount how greedy Magic the Gathering players can be, right? So a lot of times they don't want to discard their cards. You know, some people have an easy time, some people have a really difficult time. So that's something to keep in mind here. Yeah, we're keeping this hand, by the way. We've got all our colors. Actually, we don't have red. Ooh, I didn't realize this was the Dimir Dominance, but that's okay. Turn 2, we get a colorless land. We'll play the Dimir Dominance. Oh, we do have red. I apologize. We have Command Tower to give us red. The Dominance gives us black. So yeah, we have all our colors. Turn 3, we can actually play Cyclonus, which I do like a lot, because the quicker we can get this guy up and powerful and untapping, just the more we get. We do draw Noxious Gearhulk as well, so what's really great is now we have 2 great removal options, Chaos Defiler and Noxious Gearhulk, that we can get from our commander, right? So if we get 2 people to give us a card, that's just, you know, giving us a ton of board presence and board control. So then we attack, obviously. Oh no, this is turn 3, sorry, my bad. Or I just cast in this turn. So turn 4, play the Rogue's Passage, cast our commander, attack in with Cyclonus. It's going to deal damage to a player because it has flying, and we're attacking into a player who can't block. We'll connive, so we will draw. Ooh, and you know what? Let's discard Blitzwing. We don't really need Blitzwing. It's something we can get out later if we want to. But it's not our first choice of construct to get out. I do like all the other ones we have in our hand. End step, commander triggers, draw a card. Okay, it's a land. Let's just say everyone discards a card. Like, that's the best case scenario, or the worst case scenario in this deck, is we draw a card and everyone else discards one. And then any gravy we get to get on top, maybe someone has a board wipe and they're like, you know what? No, have it for free. Have a free creature. Okay, well, we get value off of that, right? We do. And in fact, I would recommend, if there's not an amazing target for removal, play Rug of Smothering or the Falcon, and go from there. But yeah, that's, let's do another turn. We do get another land. And I do like Midgard's, you may sacrifice an artifact or creature if you do draw 2 cards. On like the reactor raid sorcery part of Midgard. Like, I may even just, you know, pay 3 mana. 1, 2, 3 and lose a life for that. Sacrifice Darksteel Citadel. Draw 2 cards. Okay. We can swing in with Cyclonus. Draw a card. Discard this Wayfarer's Bauble. We could play the Rug of Smothering. We could have also big scored this turn, right, as well. Maybe it would have been a better option to big score first. But now we still have the same options we had last time. But now, you know, our opponents may be more inclined to discard or more not. It really just depends on what they're doing and what their game plan is, right? We've got a great blocker in our commander, so really we don't have to attack with it. We're just trying to get Cyclonus powered up so we can transform him. But we've got a great hand. We keep refilling it. We keep drawing lands, so we're in great shape in this deck. We can play Auton Soldier next turn and start, you know, getting 2 triggers, or we can wait and have Auton Soldier copy one of the constructs we get for free. We also don't have to wait to get these out in the battlefield. If we need a Noxious Gearhulk somebody, we can Noxious Gearhulk somebody, right? And then Auton Soldier and copy one of those is really, really good. So yeah, fun deck here. I thought it would be interesting, and it does, you know, you can make Grixis vehicles. Those are a lot of great commanders and cards for that. You can go a few different ways with Dr. Eggman. I think he's a fun guy. to build around. So let me know in the comments below what you would put in a Dr. Eggman deck, what you would take out, and also let me know what kind of deck you want me to build next. I know we're gonna get some Edge of Eternity spoilers next week, but maybe I go Sonic the Hedgehog again. There's a lot of great commanders there as well. But like the video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out these upcoming pre-con videos that we'll do for Edge of Eternities. And otherwise, have a good one. I'll see you next time. Bye.